Hi, so this video cast is about applying for charitable status. What you might want to do is make sure you've got the document from the website, because we're actually going to be walking through the document with you. And we've put this document in the form of a number of questions, and so I'm just going to probably throw a bunch of questions at Sam. And one of the first one would be, gee, remind me, incorporation, charitable status, which one, why?
So those are two different procedures, and for a little bit more information about incorporation, you can refer to our info sheet about incorporating your nonprofit, as well as our previous chapter about incorporating your nonprofit organization. But to summarize really quickly, incorporation is when you create an independent legal person that's separate from you and separate from your friend that you've been organizing with, and has the right to make contracts, to take out bank accounts, and just as standing as an independent body. This is a separate process from charitable status. Incorporation is regulated either provincially or federally. So if you're only going to work in Quebec, all you have to do is incorporate in Quebec. If you're thinking about working internationally or in a bunch of different provinces, you would want to incorporate federally with Industry Canada. Charitable status is a completely different procedure that's done through the Canada Revenue Agency. Charitable status allows you to give out tax receipts for donations. So whenever you hear talk about tax receipts and charitable donations, those are organizations that have charitable status, are registered charities, have a charitable number. So those are some of the terms you'll hear thrown around.
And so the kind of charitable donations, some of them are those individual donations where we can then issue slips to people. And a lot of organizations say, oh, we want to be able to do fundraising with individuals, so we need to be a charitable organization.
Right.
But we've also seen lots of examples at COCO of people who are extremely willing to donate to organizations and not get a charitable receipt. If people really believe in the issue, unless they're really wealthy, they may not be looking for a charitable receipt at all. So you need to think about, if it's that kind of money you're after, is becoming a charitable organization really the answer? The other place you need a charitable number for is foundations.
So foundations are also charities. They're just a different form of charities. So charitable foundations are only allowed to give money to other charitable organizations. So if you're looking for funding from foundations like, say, Centraide, also known as United Way across Canada, McConnell, or other big foundations, folks will generally think about, oh, I should consider getting charitable status. Just to follow up on what Frances said in terms of the charity tax receipt, now I remember when someone would say to me, people will give money even if you're not going to get a tax receipt. And I thought, really? I mean, I think everybody wants a tax receipt, right? They want something for giving their money. And I too have seen time and time again that folks are totally willing to give items or money without getting a tax receipt.
Now, if you've decided you do need to become a charitable organization, what do you have to do to apply?
So if you want to become a charitable organization, you have to go through the Canada Revenue Agency, and you'll need to read the guide. It's a very lengthy and thorough guide that describes exactly what steps you need to take. And you'll also need to complete a form. The neat thing about the charitable status application is that it's free. So you have to fill out the form. Some of the costs around getting it together and getting ready for the application may cost you something, but in actuality, there's no fee associated with submitting the application.
And can anybody apply for charitable status? I'm thinking, what kind of activities do you have to do as an organization to qualify?
So you need to fit under certain headings in order to be eligible for charitable status. Now, there's been a lot of critique about this, I should say, and there's a lot of folks who have called over at least 30 years for change to charity law. And so what I'm about to tell you about may sound a little bit like the Victorian age, but in order to be eligible for charitable status, your activities have to be going for the relief of poverty, for religious purposes, for education, or, and this is my favorite, for other things that are of benefit to the community. So this last category, other things that are of benefit to the community, that summarizes individual cases where slowly but surely charitable organizations have argued, hey, what we do, it's charitable. You should let us have charitable status too. So there's a long list of those that you can find on the Canada Revenue Agency website that just summarizes different step-by-step changes that people have made to increase the breadth of charity law.
So you want to read that section of the application form carefully. You probably want to talk to other people about it if there's any question about the kind of activities that your organization does, because it is becoming increasingly difficult, we've seen, with organizations applying for people to be approved for charitable status.
Absolutely. And from the folks that I've talked to who have had successful charitable status applications, as well as lawyers who work in the milieu in that environment, there's a real emphasis on really echoing the language that's used by the Canada Revenue Agency. So this isn't the time to get really creative with describing the kind of work that you do. You'll want to look carefully at the language that's used on their website under different terms. You'll want to look carefully at the sample language that they put in their guide, and not hesitate to rework that sample language to summarize the work that you're doing. Another thing that I've really seen be successful is if you know an organization that's doing similar work to yours, and you've decided to not work together for whatever reason, you can ask them to see a copy of their application and try to think about how your work is similar. So this happens a lot in like the arts community, where folks have to apply for charitable status pretty frequently, and they often use very similar wording because they're doing very similar things.
Yeah. The other thing you can do is before you even file, call them and talk to them, and then you will be assigned, once you've filed, an agent who is working on your file, and you can work with that person to really clarify any of the things that need to be worked through so that it can move towards being accepted. But also be aware that there's certainly a number of types of organizations that have a lot of difficulty in getting a charitable number.